Yeah, just a couple dead hookers in the trunk. I had a Honda S2000. I was going to a wedding in downtown Cleveland, and I'm going to turn left into this parking garage. I'm like, I don't want to do a 3-point turn. I'm just gonna, do my thing, kick the tail out, show off a little bit. And I, checked my mirrors, look around, no cops. So I drop the clutch, spin the car around, perfectly executed drift, just, kick the tail out towards the people. And as I'm coming back around full lock, I see a motorcycle cop, and I'm just staring him in the face. I'm like, crap. So I, reel it back in nicely and pull over, and he pulls up behind me. What do you think you were doing there? Well, officer, you see those people that are telling me that I had to turn around and go around there, and I didn't want to, blah, blah, blah. And so I just, the clutch slipped. Yeah, right. I'm like, crap, he's not buying it. And up to this point, I had a streak. I think I had been pulled over 10 times without a ticket. And I'm just going, man, there goes my streak. No way I can get out of this one. I'm in the middle of the city, like 15 people saw it, Me being the arrogant person I am, and just having extreme luck, at some point I just got this feeling. I'm like, I'm getting out of this. I don't know how or why, but I'm getting out of it. So of course I lost any humility or sense of, deference I had toward the cop and went into sarcastic mode. So he comes back, comes up to my window. He goes, well, I guess it must be your lucky day. And I look at him and just go, why, officer? On the verge of laughing. And he holds up his ticket book and he goes, I'm out of tickets. You would think that I would thank him and move on. No. Without missing a beat, I looked right back at him and said, I guess you'll just have to mail me one then. He firms up, maybe I will, and storms back to his bike. So I got pulled over at 3 in the morning in my Corvette and going way too fast. And the cop comes up and go through the whole thing. I have a CCW, I put my hands on the wheel, my gun's in the center console. Okay, well, license and insurance, please. I'm like, well, officer, the funny thing is my insurance is underneath my gun, which is in the center console, so what should I do? Just take it out carefully, put it on the passenger seat. Okay, no big deal, follow his instructions. Well, it's a small town in Ohio. Another cop comes because it's 3 in the morning, they got nothing to do. Apparently they didn't communicate, so the other cop comes to the passenger window and I just see him going, gun, there's a gun, there's a gun. And the other cop's like, yeah, I got it, we're good, And so I did end up getting a ticket for that one. But after I got the ticket, I said, officer, the speed limit shouldn't apply after midnight. I mean, there just shouldn't be a speed limit. And he didn't really buy that, but I already had my ticket, so whatever. So for the brief amount of time that I attended college, I won't say studied because I didn't do any of that, I let it be known that I had been to stunt driving school, among other things. So this fraternity called me up one night and they said, hey, will you take us out and show us how to do some stunt driving? I'm like, yeah, but I don't have a car. No problem. We borrowed one of the guy's parents' cars. I'm like, are they okay with it? Yeah, they're fine with it. We told them what we're doing, all that. I'm like, okay, let's do it. So we went out to some parking lot behind a supermarket, and I started showing them how to do J-turns and 180 slides and slide into a parking space and all sorts of stuff like that. I'm pretty sure it had the foot pedal e-brake, but I had actually gotten really used to doing that because when I was in high school, before my parents bought the Crown Vic, they had a Taurus station wagon with a foot pedal e-brake, and we would go out and do ridiculous things. So I had gotten really, really good at drifting one-handed, and what I'd have to do is I'd hold the release with my left hand, and if I wanted to slide through a corner, I'd be modulating the e-brake while you have to hold it down here. So I'm, doing this. I don't know how, but I got really good at the foot pedal e-brake. And we're having fun, and I neglected my rule of you do something for like 10 or 15 minutes and then you find another spot. So I'm coming back across the parking lot and I see parking lights. And I used to own a Crown Vic, so I know exactly what those parking lights look like. And I'm like, there's a Crown Vic following us across the parking lot with just their parking lights on. I'm like, dang it, we are so screwed. All of a sudden, his blue lights light up. And apparently there's one next to him with no lights on. His blue lights light up. And then around the corner of the supermarket, another cop comes with his lights going. This is not going to end well. I have to fly home for Thanksgiving tomorrow. I might not make it. One of the cops comes to our window, the other cop goes to the other window, and we hear them laughing and joking around, but the cop wasn't having any of my nonsense, And so he's asking whose car it is. I'm like, well, it's that guy's parents, this and that, and takes my driver's license, and he goes, well, what are you doing? Well, I'm a professionally trained stunt driver, and they asked me to teach them how to do these things and all that. And I think that threw him off, because he's just expecting me to be like, oh, we're doing burnouts, or we're racing, or something. And so he runs my license, he comes back, and he starts doing the question thing where he's trying to trip me up. And he goes, well, if you're such a professional stunt driver, why don't you, go practice at a racetrack? I'm like, officer, I never said I was a stunt driver. I said I'm professionally trained. Are you putting words in my mouth? I'm like, no, officer, I'm not. Sorry, yes, I lied, whatever. And so they're all huddling around one of the cars, and we hear all the cops laughing and this and that. We're like, what the heck is going on? I mean, this was like a scene out of Super Troopers. The parents were like, oh yeah, we know what they're up to. Just mess with them. We don't care, give them a scare, arrest them, whatever, So they're just like joking around with the cops. And that ended up saving us, because after that whole thing, the cop comes back to my window. We're gonna let you go. I could give you 6 points off your license, for 4 different citations, but we can't prove who was actually driving. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to argue with you, but yes, you can, because you followed me across the parking lot and you knew I was driving. I'm sitting there just basking in the glory of I didn't get arrested the night before I had to fly home. The cap on that story is I get back to my college dorm room. The guys let me out, and so I grab the road cones out of the trunk and walk back to my dorm. And as I'm walking back to my dorm, I feel this presence behind me. And it's this campus security golf cart mobile thing. Where are you coming from? I'm like, just out with friends, What are those? I'm like, they're my cones, so what? It was, of course, late at night, so they assumed, oh, you were out stealing cones. Which, of course, I had stolen the cones earlier, but just not that night. They go through all the cones and this and that, and of course one of them had to have, property of Cleveland Heights or something like that. So they write me up and confiscate the cones and this and that. So, I go upstairs and make sure I hide all the road signs that we had also stolen and transferred them to somebody else's dorm, so in case they came back. Probably the best one, I had my CB radio, and the trucker gets on and says, hey, we got to bear with a victim at such and such mile marker. And it was, 8 miles ahead of me, I think it was. So I got on and I said, anything in between here and there? No, you're all clear. So I'm like, all right, great. Hammered it. I mean, literally 10 seconds later, I had just put the throttle down, came over a crest, and there was a cop coming the other way. I'm still accelerating. I was doing about 90, and it was a 70 mile an hour zone. So of course he comes through the median and comes after me, follows me for 8 miles to make me nervous, and then pulls me over. I watch cops a lot, and I had seen this episode where a cop pulled a guy over in Texas, and he starts asking him routine questions But then he tricks them with a question like, you know, do you have any dead bodies, or do you have any drugs, something like that. And if the person kind of laughs, he realizes that they're not suspicious. I had always held that if you can make a cop laugh, you have a great chance of getting off of a ticket, which is why, for those people who've seen my driver's license, is why my picture is like this on my license. So the cop is, of course, asking me, do I have anything suspicious, loads of cash, this and that? I go, yeah, just a couple dead hookers in the trunk. It worked. He laughed. But he then also asked to search my car. Reasonable. So he, you know, rifled through my back of my car and, you know, making sure we do our job, and, you know, you understand, right? I'm like, yeah, sure. Just all the time waiting for the other shoe to drop. Oh, by the way, here's your ticket for 90 miles an hour. Never once mentioned my speed. Went back to his car. Have a nice day. See you later. I've been accumulating FOP cards that I haven't used, and so I'm just driving faster and faster because I'm like, well, eventually I have to get pulled over and use these before they expire. Inevitably, they always ask, do you know why I pulled you over? And my smart aleck response would be, well, heck yeah, but if you don't, I'm not going to tell you.
If you like that story, it's time to make one of your own. Extreme Experience puts you in the driver's seat of some of the world's best supercars at over 20 racetracks from coast to coast, with no speed limits, no shifting restrictions, and no governors. Head to the link to choose your supercar, find a racetrack near you, and start making a story of your own. Extreme Experience. It's your turn.